Imagine living in a marriage of over 10 years, where the flame of passion has already burned out, and all that remains is routine and a lack of surprises. That was how Laura felt until, after a company dinner, the unexpected happened. Her husband, Mark, couldn't attend, and she found herself alone in the middle of the event until her husband's boss, David, offered to drive her home. But what he said on the way home changed everything and left Laura speechless. What happened in that car ride might make you rethink your own life. Get ready for an intimate story that explores desire. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and hit the bell to not miss any detail of this story. Get ready. Laura and Mark had been married for over 10 years, and although the relationship was solid, something was missing. They were like good friends, but the passion that existed at the beginning of their relationship had long since burned out. Romantic dinners? Unexpected gifts? That seemed like a thing of the past. Their marriage was now stuck in routine, and both of them knew it. But Laura didn't dare to talk about it. Mark was always busy with his work as an engineer, and she understood. However, deep down, she felt something was missing. The relationship wasn't what it once was, and the surprises had disappeared. She wondered, am I the only one feeling this way? One day, Mark came home and told Laura that the company's boss was organizing a celebratory dinner for the employees, and it would be an opportunity to celebrate the company's years of success. Mark had been one of the key engineers at the company, and this was sure to be an important event. Laura wasn't excited about the event, but as always, she felt obliged to go. She thought this would be just another social event where she would fulfill her role as a wife, without high expectations. Deep down, Laura wanted more than just being an accessory in the marriage, but the obligations and routines seemed to take over everything. The dinner was at a fancy restaurant in the city, and Laura, though she wasn't in the mood to go, knew she couldn't let Mark embarrass himself. She always tried to fulfill her role as a wife and participate in events, even when she wasn't excited. The evening began with her getting ready carefully, as she knew Mark hated being late. But when she was almost ready, Laura's phone rang. It was Mark on the other line. He explained that there was an emergency at work, and he wouldn't be able to make it to the dinner on time. Laura felt a sense of relief at first, as she wasn't in the mood to go. But Mark's request left her frustrated. He asked her to go alone, to represent him. Laura hesitated. She knew everyone at the event, and had attended many company dinners with Mark, but going alone seemed even more unappealing. However, she didn't want to disappoint him. The request was important to him, so she decided to go anyway. As she headed to the restaurant, she thought to herself, is this all I have? Is this my life? When she arrived at the restaurant, the atmosphere was full of familiar faces, but the fact that she was alone made her feel isolated. The table was long, with about 30 people, and although Laura knew everyone, she couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. The conversations flowed naturally, and Laura soon began to interact with others, especially David, the company director, who had always been friendly. The dinner was pleasant, the food delicious, and she had a couple of glasses of wine to relax. People began leaving little by little, but what Laura didn't know was that her night was far from over. When she was about to leave, David approached Laura. She was waiting for a taxi, thinking that the night was over since Mark couldn't make it. But then David, Mark's boss, approached her with a friendly smile and asked if she would like a ride home. Laura hesitated. She wasn't used to accepting rides from superiors, but since David was someone she knew well, she decided to accept. Inside the car, while David drove, the conversation began casually. They talked about the dinner, how enjoyable the event was, and of course, about Mark not being able to attend. David said he was sorry Mark couldn't be there, but in a moment of sincerity, he mentioned that maybe it was a good thing, as now he could have a more relaxed time with Laura in the car, away from the formality of the event. What Laura didn't know was that David had other plans for this moment. David, with a soft voice, began to compliment Laura, telling her how stunning she looked that night. He wasn't just referring to that night, but to all the other times he had seen her at company events. He said he always observed her, and it wasn't just her beauty, but the glow she had. Laura, who hadn't received compliments from Mark in a long time, felt a shiver run down her spine. The smile that appeared on her face was spontaneous, and for the first time in a long time, she felt desired. That attention, that sensation of being wanted, awakened something she thought she had lost in her marriage. David was looking at her in a different way, and this made her heart race. During the car ride, Laura felt a mix of conflicting emotions. On one hand, she felt flattered by David's compliments, but on the other hand, something in her heart told her that this was wrong. She didn't want to be unfaithful to her marriage, but she felt that something inside her had been awakened. David wasn't just Mark's boss. He represented everything that her marriage no longer was: attention, affection, and desire. Laura was torn between what was happening in the car and what she knew was the right thing for her life. What would she do? Could she ignore this and go back to what she knew, or would she allow herself to feel something different? When the ride ended, David dropped her off at her door, but before leaving, he looked into her eyes and said, "If you need anything, you know where to find me." He looked deeply into Laura's eyes, came close for a goodbye kiss on the cheek, and Laura, overcome with emotion and her heart racing, couldn't resist. As he got closer, she smelled his masculine cologne, his blue eyes devouring her, and she kissed him on the lips. He responded in kind, his hands sliding across Laura's body. In that moment, she couldn't think about her husband, about her marriage, about anything, just how good it felt to feel desired. Laura gave in to the desire. Their bodies touched, and the kiss was intense. David touched her in a way that Mark had never done before. Laura felt a shiver, as if it were the first time someone really desired her. After the kiss, a wave of shame washed over her. The kiss was long, and when it ended, it seemed like Laura regained her senses, and a deep shame took over her. She apologized and entered her house. But what she didn't know was that that moment of attention from David had changed everything inside her. Arriving home alone with her thoughts, Laura couldn't believe what had just happened. She remembered how alive she felt, how good it was to feel desired, but soon guilt and regret followed for having betrayed her husband with that kiss. She couldn't believe what had just happened. The kiss with David left her torn. At the same time, she felt a sense of relief, as if she had finally felt alive, but guilt gnawed at her. Was it betrayal? She didn't know. But what that kiss represented to her was a sign that something was missing in her marriage. Mark arrived home and wanted to know how the dinner went. Laura told him everything, except for the part about David giving her a ride. That part, she couldn't bring herself to share. Mark was tired, took a shower, and went to bed. Laura loved Mark. She didn't think about separation. But she couldn't continue living in an empty routine, with a marriage that seemed to be just a formality. Laura knew she needed to act. Laura made a decision. She decided that she would no longer wait passively. It was time to rekindle the spark between her and Mark. Gradually, the physical and emotional attraction between her and Mark began to reignite. It wasn't easy, but Laura knew that if she wanted to save what was left, she needed to rediscover the passion. After the kiss with David, her husband's boss, Laura realized that the emotions it stirred within her were a crucial wake-up call. It wasn't about betrayal or something forbidden anymore. It was about awakening. Laura recognized that despite years of routine, there was still something precious in her marriage with Mark. She knew that what she truly wanted was to revive the love that once existed between them. Laura was no longer willing to live in a passionless relationship. Her marriage still had a chance. There was still love between them. It was just hidden beneath the thick layer of routine. They managed to transform their marriage by adding more energy, intimacy, and reignited passion between them.